But you know how we started off, man. Let's just take a breath. Let's hone in. MIC Podcast, episode 85, community content. You get it all here, man. And today we have a very special guest. You can catch him once a month at King Fly Spirits as part of the house band of words and sounds. The eclectic Remy Vega in the building, man. What's going on, bro?
What's going on?
How you doing, man? It's good to, chop it up and sit down formally, have a discussion.
Yeah. I was like, oh, they want me to come on and talk. And then usually like I was saying before we started recording, is that like I'm used to being the background guy.
Yeah.
Playing the keys, and I mean now that's what I've been doing. So it's cool to get out and have a chat.
Facts, bro. And it's funny enough, it's usually like the background guys that have a different perspective or just like a more in depth, just kind of take on things, man. So
it can happen, yeah. The wallflower effect. You're seeing everything go on.
For real, though, just absorb it, man. So, I'm sure, this episode, for people who may not know, much about you, I'm sure, this will serve like a nice peek in Remy Vega, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, man, let's dive in, bro. So where, are you originally from Pittsburgh? Like, I didn't know if you were,
So I'm from Southern California.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right outside of LA. It's like it's called the High Desert. It's like a suburb of a suburb kind of a thing. Like it's California's different though, because it's like in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So it's in the High Desert. It's in like San Bernardino County, which borders on LA County.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in like the San Bernardino area, and then like when I was in like elementary school, moved out to Victorville, which is kind of middle of nowhere. Moved out here in like 2015. I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Damn. Okay. So like you've been here what? Damn, you're like 8 years now.
About 8 years. Yeah.
Okay,
End of 2015, like December 2015.
Okay. Word. Yeah. Dope, man. And like, how was it? Like just growing up in Cal. Like I know people that grow up there usually just kind of have like a very liberated childhood. You know what I mean? Just like.
Yeah. I mean, it was a weird place to grow up. Victorville. It's kind of like desolate, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of. It's a weird that's a whole I could go on for hours.
Yeah, fact.
But I mean, in summary, it was pretty it was pretty rough. It's pretty like it's a lot of cutthroat. But also there's just like people just going to work and commuting from Victorville to like LA and stuff.
Cutthroat as far as like just like trying to make it in California, or just like.
Well, it's just like I think that anybody from Victorville who might be listening to this will know what I mean, but not a lot of people are familiar with it as a place in general. But
yeah,
it's just really, it's kind of, I think people are, there's not a lot going on there. Like there's not really, there's not really like colleges out there.
Okay.
There's not, I don't know, there's not really businesses out there. So most of the time people are working, they're commuting out, hour and a half out into the, into the Inland Empire and then like into LA. So it's kind of just like it's kind of a weird place, I don't want to speak too ill.
Yeah, no, facts. Yeah. From Victorville, pop in your DMs like, yo, bro, fuck you, man. I saw that podcast, man.
Yeah,
we're cool.
No, yeah, it's yeah. I encourage anybody to do some internet search, and you'll see some interesting stuff. But yeah, so the change was big for me from that to this, because it's like it's a small town,
yeah,
so to speak, but it's like the population of like the general area is actually it's pretty close to the population of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So it's a smaller area, but it's still pretty big,
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm moving to this city, and then I moved out here, and I'm like, it's actually kind of.
I was about to say, like, what initially brought you out here?
So my brother moved out here, and he convinced me basically he was like, try it out. There was like, I was getting into a lot of trouble. It was just like, it wasn't like it wasn't really optimal living, situation for me. So he was like, just try it out, try something different. It's a little bit more affordable out here.
Okay, it's like, why did he even initially move? Just because like you just want to get out of Victorville?
So he got married and he moved.
Okay, there you go.
So
okay.
Yeah, so my sister-in-law, her family's from out here.
Okay.
And well, her mom's side is from out here. Dad's side is from like California and all over the place, kind of. Mm-hmm. And so he moved out here. And
okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of. It was sort of really random in a way. I mean, like I would have never thought when I was growing up, yeah, someday I'm gonna live in Pittsburgh,
right?
Like it just didn't occur to me.
Fact.
Yeah. So it was just like he went and he was like, hey, try it out, and so I just went for it.
How'd that move? Just like, how was that transition initially for you? Was it just like a major switch up, just like a culture, just like?
Yeah, it was a huge change. And like just the area that I grew up in, the demographics are just completely different from in California
Sure.
to Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh is a lot more like segmented. Everything is kind of, people are sectioned off, honestly, in a way that I wasn't really super prepared for, because everybody kind of mingles a little bit more. I mean, there's always conflict, you know what I mean? People have conflict with their ins and out groups.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that's the story of humankind.
Sure.
But it's just like, as you get acclimated to the specific dynamics within a region or a general region, you know, like it's kind of like that, like, you know, that idea of like the fish, you know, that lives in the fishbowl, doesn't know anything other than the fishbowl.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's just, this is how things are.
Exactly. That's the world.
Yeah. So I was thrown into this whole new coast and a completely different, like,
that is
completely different social dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, like, even just from like a coastal standpoint, the East and the West Coast, just like, you know, culturally, like I feel like the West is way more lax, and then like, you know, you get to the East Coast, people are like a bit more, just like there's like a grittiness to it. You know what I mean? Just kind of like a jadedness with like, you know, East Coast people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I have a whole bunch of like guesses as to why that is, but it definitely, there's a lot less sunlight out here, and that's actually something that I physically had to like adjust to.
Wow.
Which kind of led me to the kind of a bigger assessment about the overall you know, kind of psychological layout of how people are, you know what I mean, based off of the actual, you know, climate itself, the actual terrain, you know. So
I definitely get that. So coming out here, and like I just kind of even you know, want to scale it back. When did you initially start playing the keys? Because like I know before, you know, like the pod even started, you said like, you know, you were a rapper before. So like, was the keys a part of you rapping, or like did you just like rap, learn the keys, and then like just like, you know, how did that transition?
Yeah, so it was kind of like, all right, growing up, you know, I like my grandma played like organ in church and piano in church, so I was like familiar with it. I was around it, you know. I'd like played on the piano and stuff like that, like growing up, but it wasn't. I think maybe took lessons when I was like 10 years old, you know, for like a short period of time. And I never really stuck with it.
Okay.
And then middle school, I was doing like, you know, I was trying out like band, and I played like trumpet and oboe. Like I tried all these different, you know, instruments just to kind of give it a go. My brother played saxophone throughout like this whole time. So he was into jazz. He was like heavy into jazz. So that was kind of, it was kind of like a window to that, you know. It was that seed was planted, and then but I didn't really do anything with it. So I was making beats and I was rapping. I was like really, really devoted to being an MC, you know.
Yeah.
That was the
goal,
the main goal. Like I was like, this is my life, this is what I'm gonna do. So like making beats was like a necessity at that point. So I got really into making beats, and that sort of grew into me wanting to learn how to expand my ability to use instruments, you know.
Makes sense, yeah.
So around 2013 I started playing guitar, and I had some roommates and some friends that were just really good guitar players. So I was like, I'm gonna try to learn from them. And they had a keyboard there, but I was really focused on trying to learn how to play guitar. So then I moved out here, and I was like, okay, well, I have time and like I can afford it, so I'm gonna learn how to play keys. And so I started taking like piano lessons, kind of like mostly aiming at learning how to play jazz music.
Okay.
And then that was like, about like 7 years ago. And 7, 8 years, it was right about when I moved out here. So
got you. Okay, so like when you moved out here, like that's when like you sunk your teeth and like, you know, like learn how to play the keys.
Yeah, I bought something. I was like, wait, I don't know how to play this. I bought like this really nice synthesizer, and I'm like, I actually don't know
what the buttons fucking do on this shit. Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta learn. I have to like learn how to use this as an instrument.
Who was it who taught you within that
So when I first got out here, it was he's a piano player named Rick Gallagher.
Okay.
And he was probably like the most like influential and probably the most important teacher that I had. Not most important, but he's definitely got me started on it. Like it was like a life-changing thing for me, like to go. So Rick Gallagher, and then I took lessons at Duquesne, not like going there, but with one of the professors there named Ron Bickle. And then I started getting into like the you know, the internet, like Zoom lesson world, because I started finding out that you can like hit up, you know, people who are like your heroes, or like really dope, that you can learn from them directly on Zoom and stuff like that. So I took lessons with that producer, piano player Kiefer for a while. It was probably about like maybe like 6 months or so, like like once a month or so.
Gotcha.
For you know, it was 6 months, 2 years, something like that. And then with Nick Semrod, the Corey Henry and the Funk Apostle. So I was just like, occasional Zoom lessons trying to learn from, the people that I really wanted to, like, essentially that stylistically were like the biggest influences that I could get in contact with. So
Dope.
those were some of my main teachers. Yeah.
Were you still rapping at this point, or like, hey, just kind of put that to the side?
I kind of stopped. Like once I moved, it was right before I moved out here. It was right when I started learning how to play instruments. I sort of had I kind of had like a disillusionment with rapping, like, and I kind of just, I was just like a little bit jaded by the,
The experience of trying to like, become a rapper.
yeah, it's the kind of like the personality kind of conflicts that I had with just the lifestyle of constantly having to like, there's like a very big
Performative aspect to it. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And so I think a part of me wanted to draw back when, I still write, and I still record. Like I have been recently recording a lot more like rap material, and I've been I'm trying to get into singing and stuff too. I've been taking vocal lessons for like 2 years now. So it's it's on the horizon, but I put it off to the side.
Facts. Just like what, like even like through the disillusionment, like did you realize that like this may not even be my thing? Like
I think that it was just like it felt like there was more that I could be doing. It wasn't. I think that in the moment it was kind of like I was like, I'm done with this. Like I want to just.
It like it almost felt constrictive.
It did in a way. Yeah. I think that I had more questions about like, well, why does this? I was learning to make beats so that I could rap to it, but then in that process I was like, all right, well, why does it sound the way that it does?
Right.
You know what I mean? And like just completely new to it, like, and starting to understand how, harmony, melody, rhythmic, phrasing, all this stuff, how that goes into making a beat,
Sure,
what I mean?
yeah.
And then I started kind of looking into less like beat based music and really learning more about like, the actual
Instrumentation.
Yeah, the actual instrumentation within jazz. And it just opened up a lot of doors of questions that I didn't even know that I had.
Yeah, facts.
So I just felt like it was a necessary step for me to grow in the way that felt sincere. It felt honest to myself,
Definitely. And just even within like the jazz genre, like it's very improvisational based, for like, lack of a better word. Like you just kind of feel the vibe, but like the band, like like what you feel, you kind of add your like, spice, like a certain vibe for sure.
Yeah. And that really connected with me because the fact of the matter is that like hip hop like grew out of jazz in that tradition.
Absolutely,
obviously, so it's like you're gonna hear that in it, and you're gonna, if you're being receptive, then you're gonna learn from that.
Facts.
And so having been, I was a huge hip hop head. Like I was like, I'm 34, so I grew up in an era where like there was, especially in LA area,
Sure,
in the Southern California, like the hip hop scene was like, with like breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, MCing, like beatboxing, all of that stuff. So I was so into that like I had a lot of friends, or just even finding out, who sampled this record or this record,
Right. No, that game is always fun to who sampled what, like, facts.
So then it's like, okay, you're gonna get introduced to jazz music. You already have that in your ear. You're listening to De La Soul. You're already listening to Ahmad Jamal. You know what I mean? You're already listening to, listen to MF Doom. You're already listening to, Bill Evans or Miles Davis or et cetera. So
definitely.
And that, I think that improvisational aspect of it it made sense for me because I was really big into freestyle rap, and like, there's different types of freestyle. There's freestyle where you come with a verse that is like non-topic specific, and it's just basically to show your skill. Like it's something that you may have written, like that's not like against the rules or whatever. Right. So, but there's also like actual like, improvisational off the top freestyle.
Like give me a topic, type of thing, right?
And I was huge into that. That was my favorite method of involving myself in hip hop. You know what I mean? Sorry, I keep on looking at the waveform over here.
Yeah, no.
So I'm just checking to make sure that I'm staying consistent.
No, bro, Sam, and like, I'm even trying to like, keep my eye on it too, just so like it's picking up. So nah.
Yeah, right. I see you see me looking.
Yeah. No, it's good.
But yeah, anyway, yeah. So the improvisational aspect of freestyle was like, it made sense to me that if I was gonna get involved with playing this instrument, that there should be some level of respect towards the ability to quickly and effectively deliver a creative idea on the spot, So that was a big resonance for me.
Definitely. So did you ever get around to like releasing anything, just like, as a rapper? Or?
I did. I actually have like on Bandcamp and some hidden Bandcamp like mixtapes and EPs that I did. Like I have an EP that I did with my two like close, like they're like, I have a small group of friends out in California that I'm still in contact with, all of them, and they're like my best friends, and two of them produced the tracks on an EP that I made. And then I did like a mixtape where I just grabbed a whole bunch of beats from, artists, like from producers that I liked, and made a couple on there, and I put that out in like 2013, so it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because, like, like, did you ever, like, perform in like in any local venues when like you first moved out here, or like just like as far as like rapping?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I was doing a lot of that out in California. So we were involved with this event out in California pretty frequently called the Common Ground. Common Ground is like basically a place where in the IE where like just like huge amounts of like incredibly dope rappers just all like kind of congregated there and started like performing and like workshopping stuff. It was really cool. It was a really cool thing. And then they had some of my favorite like underground and independent artists would perform there as well. So it was
kind of like brushing shoulders with them.
Yeah, it was just really cool to be there. It's like it was like a fairly smaller venue, but it was huge. It was really. So that was a big part of my musical education in a certain sense. And so coming out here, I was like starting fresh, and I did a few performances, maybe like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And then I really went into the keys thing.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of went into the dungeon for a while, and then came out and started doing more like key-based performances and stuff. So
at least it's good that like you scratch that itch of like you just even like getting out there rapping a little bit, like releasing something, what I mean, and just I mean, it's just kind of good to work those muscles a little bit. So are the keys like the only instrument that, like you play as of now? Are you learning anything else, or?
It's like my primary instrument. I play like enough of like the bass, guitar, the bass to be able to like track something if I have an idea. Like obviously there's gonna be some limitations that I have on that. Most of the time, if I'm playing that type of instrument, like it's gonna be something that I'm gonna like have somebody who's maybe more proficient play at it, But I can play bass enough. I play drums enough to get the ideas out. But it's not something that I put a lot of like dedicated focus into.
I mean, like, there's a lot of energy. Like, I was just like, would you even pursue like trying to learn like another instrument at this point? Like, as the keys is like, I'm cool with this.
I mean, I try to learn. If I'm doing anything, I have like the tendency to go really, really
dive in.
I dive
absolutely.
in. Like I become
for real. Like
I get like obsessed when I'm learning a new thing. So like if the itch is there, then I'll do it. And I had a few. It was probably like a 2-year period where I was practicing bass probably as much as I was playing the keys. So that's why that's the one that I think that I got a little bit more comfortable with. I was teaching lessons to like young kids, so I know enough about the placement of the notes on the bass and general basic technique, but it's not So I definitely keys is like my main.
That's gonna be like the main.
But I've been doing a lot of production lately, and so I'm kind of merging those, and then I'm getting back into writing. Honestly, I've been writing vocals, like a lot of vocals lately. So it's kind of those 3 things are main focus for now. Yeah.
And I was even just kind of like in doing my research, like it seems like you pull a lot of like inspiration from like different mediums. So like, do you think that innately just helps your art, or just like whatever you're able to create?
Yeah, I think that I mean, your art is going to be kind of like a sum total reflection of all of the input that you take and that you consciously take in, and even to a certain degree subconsciously. But I try to enrich the value of my input so that it enriches the value of my output. Yeah. So and that method is really just trying to assimilate things that I find either challenging or that I initially resonate with, or that when I resonate with it, it causes me to go in and reflect and change my perspective, to purify my perspective, to make it more, like to keep myself accountable, So I think that having different styles of music, I mean, there are a lot of different electronic styles of music that I've been getting into lately that I hadn't really explored.
Like what?
Like even like house music and stuff like that, like the more up tempo electronic music that I was always really into, like the more laid back, like 90s boom bap, tempo, you know what I mean? Like 85 to 95 beats. Yeah. Like, so, but I've been exploring other tempos, other textures, and then on top of that, reading. I like to keep my mind focused on just not the mechanics of what I'm doing, but why I'm doing it, you know? So that's, I try to keep the input on a high level so that I can, you know what I mean? Because then it goes in for the processing, and as you process it, then what you output is going to be, you know, like you know, like I said, a sum total.
Automation is like, you know, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Again, that like your input. Like I agree 100%. Just because me personally, like I feel like that's kind of where we are similar in a little bit. Like I'm into just so many things. Just like as far as like, I mean, I'm an anime fan, you know, like a wrestling fan. I'm a hip hop fan. You know what I mean? So like everything that like you know, that like I want to create or like find interest in, it's just like all you know, just products of those little, you know, things. Like I definitely get you on that. And just even like as far as like the house thing, like that whole genre is kind of like, you know, having a resurgence, because like I know like it was a thing in like, you know, like the 90s for sure. And then, you know, it kind of, whatever happened, and then, you know, like people like, you know, Kate Trinata, I know people like, you know, giving the nod to like Azalea Banks, you know what I mean? Like, you know, even kind of in introducing that whole house wave to it. So like, where have you been pulling for like, you know, to explore that genre?
I honestly, I think the weird thing is that I got into it through looking at new forms of like production technology, synthesizers and drum machines that I hadn't really been acquainted with. So it was a very I would say left brain. It was very like, how is this made? What kind of machines are using it? Logistically, what's the difference on why it sounds the way that it does? Like what kind of, you know, time feel is exhibited through the technology that's being used and how it's being used, and then what kind of textures come from that. So it was a very mechanical thing at first. And then I started to kind of, I think, just remove maybe some of the I guess the partitions in my mind from certain styles that I've had, you know, an aversion to, just because it was just not the thing that I did, you know. And I try to challenge myself in that way, you know. So I was like, okay, well, why have I not found something that's enjoyable with this? So I just started looking up artists and looking up different like styles, subgenres, and then just finding stuff using, you know, Spotify or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, was it like logistical partitions, or like was it just like a maybe like like I'm not comfortable in trying this thing?
I think that what it was that it was mostly just I didn't know a lot of people that were into like house and EDM and stuff.
Yeah, so like you didn't even know how to like, you know, I guess reference it to other people, or just like even like sharpen your sword in that area.
Yeah. And I think in a sense it's that, and then it's also like you know, it wasn't like an avoidance. You know what I mean? For me, you know what I mean? There's certain styles of music that I listen to, and I'm just really not trying to hear that. That sound is like fatiguing to me or whatever it is, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like that's the way that I explain it. But the thing is that there's a lot of music that I make and listen to that could be considered fatiguing as well. So it's like I like stuff that's unsettling sometimes. So it's like that's what I mean. It's like okay, well, why is it? What is it about this stuff that I do or don't like? And trying to understand that, and then sometimes I come out the other end actually enjoying it. Like, why do I not like this? Okay, maybe it's this, and that. And so I think that with like, you know, I mentioned house primarily because that's one out of like techno, house, trance, and stuff like that. The more fast, more up tempo, like, you know, above 110 BPM, and like with the 4 on the floor kick, the tum tum tum, you know, and then kind of comparing it to like the dubstep stuff. House is the one that kind of I found the most like kinship with.
Yeah, because like just even in that whole genre, the dubstep's a little bit like dubstep to me is like a little, just like it's not fatiguing, but like it's just like this is just an invasive sound is the word I'm looking for. Like
it's aggressive. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's aggressive, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And I feel like house has like groove to it. So you know what I mean? Like it has that, like it's quantized a lot of it, but some of it is a little bit looser. And but you're also hearing like that, like, you know, that disco kind of influence, which means that there's gonna be some funk in there. There's gonna be, you know what I mean? So
I think they fucked up with like getting disco out of here, man. That was a dope genre. I didn't have a problem with disco, bro. Like
I that's one of the ones that I started over the last few years, kind of being like, all right, I've been very like no to disco. So I'm like, I started listening to a little bit more of it. And like it was one of those ones like I was like, okay, cool, I could appreciate what's going on with this, like a lot of it in ways that, you know, was similar to other styles that are kind of just right outside of my, you know, outside of my wheelhouse, but close enough. But
that shit was like a societal citizen's arrest, like they did with disco. But they're just like, no, we're stopping this today. Like this is just all.
They just went out real quick,
started burning the records. I'm just like, damn, like okay, like how come we can't do that with other genres?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, why?
like, bro, like, why was it just disco? Like, we all decided, okay, no more of this. Boom, it's done.
Yeah,
Damn, like,
yeah, that.
oh,
Damn, yeah, disco got
so
disco.
upset. Like, we can
They got the boot.
galvanize again to get some of these other motherfuckers the fuck up out of here, bro. Like,
Yeah, it's really interesting when there's like a, I guess you could say like a consensus, kind of like consensus action on stylistic trends and stuff like that. I always wonder. That's another. I always wonder. That's something I might have to look in. Why did disco get
get the
burned?
boot like that. Yeah, shit is crazy. So, again, I mentioned being an anime fan. I think you are as well. To some degree. I know Samurai Champloo was like a really big, influence on you. So, just like in what ways, like, did that show impact you? And
Yeah. Oh man. So Samurai Champloo. So I have one of again with one of the people that was in my group that was I was in a group called Black Rosette, in this group called Antique. One of the rappers in the group. He's into animation, so he's like an animator. He does like character animation and stuff. His name's Taku Pop, and he's super dope. And he so we've been like damn near like family for like 15 years now.
Nice.
And he got me way more into anime than I had been previous to that. And for Samurai Champloo, it was like Adult Swim and all of this
Tsunami, all that. Yeah, right.
Like that, and that it really opened my eye up to it. But then also the music. Like
facts.
So that was
Samurai Champloo specifically.
Yeah, yeah, like with like Nujabes or like Fat John, the Afro Soul Physician and stuff like that. That was for me, that was like I was already listening to their music, like and had before I had even like it all happened at the same time.
Absolutely.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and just the idea behind it, even the idea of like mixing things together, because like what the word Champloo means, like I think it's like an Okinawan word that means like to mix it together. It's like a dish, actually. It's a dish that means to mix together. So, and just having my entire life always kind of been on the fringe of all these different things.
Sure.
And then just to me, that show kind of it carries that meaning to me.
Yeah.
Like I've always, like my mom's Mexican, my dad's white, and I'm into rap, but I'm also into this. I'm into this and into that. And like never really finding a fit exactly somewhere, but like not really seeing that as a bad thing.
Yeah.
So that show definitely like had a huge impact on me, and like now there's just like huge nostalgia, the music, having like Nujabes, like the way he's sampling, like Yusuf Lateef and all these, and all these artists that I now have taken a lot of time to draw a lot of inspiration from. So it just planted like a multi-dimensional, omnidirectional seed that kind of connected a whole bunch of things. So that's anime to me is a big, I think, not every, I have my niche, like there's a certain ones that I'm really into, and but those shows and movies, like they're some of the most, I think, like overall creatively inspiring for me. The music, the visual, everything. It's like, so that's it. Yeah, that's definitely a big one.
I definitely get you on that. And just even with Champloo specifically, like just I think if I'm not mistaken, don't fucking kill me. I know, you know what I mean? But I think that's like one of the first instances of where we see anime and hip hop blend, and it's not they're not butting heads.
Yeah.
Like which content is bringing the people here. It's just such a natural vibe to it all. You know what I mean? And it's like they didn't try to shove it in your face within the show, but then in the credits you're just like, yo, this is like like I like the song that's playing in these credits. I mean, like I was even watching, I mean, like this is like a bit more obscure, but I was watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and one of the seasons they end the credit song is a Jodeci track.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, see, like I love this, man. Like it's like two of the things I fucking love the most, hip hop and anime. And it's just like they didn't have to do that, but like it made sense to the theme of that season too. Yeah, it's like it just wasn't like let's just throw hip hop in here just for the fuck of it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think that just like really spoke to me, like the way it was blended. Yeah, and it was like not corny, like it has its moments. You know what I mean? But like it's like it was done. I think, and that's the thing is that I feel like the most effective art is just sincere. The best thing you can do is be sincere about it. Like don't put on a facade one way or the other. Like just be honest about what it is, and if what you are is this amalgamation and this, you know, this syncretism of sorts, then let it be that, you know.
That for not facts. So fast forwarding, how did you initially get involved with words and sounds?
So that's actually cool because Words and Sounds was the entryway for me, you know, playing with Sierra in general. Like,
yeah, right.
So Sierra Sellers, she needed somebody for a Words and Sound, like she needed keys or something like that, and or maybe they had I think they had a guitar player, but Alan on drums was like, yo, why don't you have like, could my friend Remy come and play?
Yeah.
We do that, and she was like, yeah. And her side of the story is always that she's like, if he's not dope, then he's gone.
That's how she spin it.
She'll say that. So, but it I made the cut. So we started. We played as a group for like last like 5 years or something like that, or four or 5 years, something like that. I don't really super keep track of it, but so it was just like
pretty much just went and never left.
So yeah, she put on Words and Sounds, and then I came and I played, and then I played pretty much all of them since then. So. And so I've been playing with Alan for like this whole time, and before that, me and Alan's the drummer, in the group, and I've been playing with him since before that, you know. So we had already.
I was about to say, how'd you meet Alan? Like,
it was at a show that I had done a show performing some of my music, some of my like my rap / like this like weird. I have like this really weird, and like lo-fi experimental, rappy, singy, weird EP that I put out, and I performed it. And he was there, so I met him, and I'm like, we were talking, and it turns out we were from like relatively the same area in California, and we had like a mutual friend. It was crazy, and we
fucking world.
But like we had never met until being out here. So yeah, me and Alan had started playing like a while before that, and then just kind of like getting together and playing, and then it just it came to Words and Sounds, and then we're still here doing it on a monthly basis now.
I mean, 4 or 5 years, because even with like, Sierra, moving, and like, the hosting gig got transferred over to Kenny, but just like, through your perspective, how have you seen it evolve?
I mean, I think that it's maintained its general spirit. Like the whole idea is like get artists to present their music in a way that might be different than their usual their usual performance they usually play with us. It's sometimes they'll have their dedicated band come and play. That's all good. It's like it's just like it's supposed to be kind of just like a display of fairly localish artists, local giving a story to their music as well. And so I think that's maintained. I think we used to do it at the what is it called, Full Pint.
I never heard.
It was it's in I don't know, maybe still there. I don't really haven't been keeping up. It's in Lawrenceville. So and then and then we've been doing it at Kingfly.
Yeah.
So I mean the scenery's changed, but also Kenny's a different, like just he has a different personality than Sierra altogether. Yeah. I mean, no matter who's gonna host it, you're gonna get their personality is gonna be like sort of
forefront.
Yeah. So it's I think that most of the spirit of it has maintained its I think its core purpose, which I'm really happy about. And I think the things that have changed is that different people come in and out and and they play, but yeah, it's kind of the same that same message, and I think that's I think it's important.
Kenny's has the excellent job, and like I think I call like one of those, maybe 1 or 2 of like when Sierra was hosting before she moved.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But yeah, both are have done an excellent job, and like just even Sierra with just like the creation of that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's super dope. But do you have any like favorite performances, or just like favorite moments just like throughout the 4 years? Like I know it's a pretty broad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there was a lot. I don't know. There's been a lot. I really, honestly, it's all been dope. I mean I have my favorite like Pittsburgh artists. You know what I mean? Just because there's like I think that there's like I said, that there's something about their music that I think has like that I have an affinity with, that just feels very sincere, and it's very easy for me to listen to it and lose myself in it. Cam Chambers. Like to me, like and you know what I mean? I'm not just trying to just blow smoke, but like
Cam is dope, man.
Yeah, honestly, like to me, like Cam Chambers is like nothing, it's just he's like one of my, if not probably my favorite like artist out of Pittsburgh right now, just because it's just it just this hits right with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
facts.
the music like just feels right. So that was like a really fun performance. Ezra's was really dope too. Ezra Hamilton. That one, that was right up there. Honestly,
Yes.
that might be a hard. I don't know. That's like there's, that was
and neck
also,
with them, yeah.
that was kind of a neck and neck. I know, but I've also enjoyed every single one that I've done because it's like, there's been others that were just like completely different styles of music. And like I said, I had to challenge myself to play differently and think differently on my instrument. You know what I
I
mean?
was gonna say, like, you guys do such a good job at just that instant coordination. Like, someone comes up and it's like, yo, da 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 da, and then boom, you guys just start, and it's just like, and it's, like it takes you like maybe like a beat or two to like kind of get on like the same wave, but once y'all are there, like, so just kind of like, even speak to like that whole moment of like that ability to just be able to instantly coordinate, with someone whose music you never heard before, like.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of it.
Sure.
Honestly, like it's part of the fun, but it's just about kind of knowing the language of music enough to where you can translate even if somebody might not know the details and elements that they're using for the song, like being able to hear it at least, you know what I mean? If somebody knows, oh, it's these chords, or you know what I mean, or they play it, they don't know what it's called, and being able to, by ear learn what it is, and like that to me is really fun because it's getting to know a song, for the first time, like right there, and at least getting something that's close enough to the form of the song that where you could do it, and also using your ear and being able to tell like, oh, is there going to be something that maybe we should drop out? And then also kind of like being able to communicate that to each other.
Sure, yeah.
And we've like, and so it's like, yeah, me and Alan have been playing together for a long time. Denzel pretty much came in right after me, so
Okay.
we played with a couple other people.
Oh, so Denzel's like fairly newer.
And just barely.
Yeah,
like it was like
just like a month of like a two
like
part.
a few months, maybe 6 months, maybe.
Okay.
That like
Gotcha.
it was, it was like a short like, a couple bass players like that played with us, but we're busy or just like can make it work out schedule wise, whatever. And then it just worked out, so we've all been playing together as that trio for pretty much this whole time.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? So being able to like communicate and know each other's kind of like go to like
there's like a chemistry involved.
Yeah. So there's a communication there. So I love that process of being able to just like, try to learn something on the spot.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then also challenging myself to not just like make it sound the same, like really try to like, which it's going to happen sometimes.
Sure.
You're going to have your
comfortable pockets and
your default voicings or your default, rhythms or whatever. But I really do try to keep it fresh so that, that it can be.
No, bro.
Thing,
and you do an excellent job. Like, I don't even think there's like, I can't even think of like a riff or rhythm that I've heard twice. Like from you guys, for real. Like it really does feel like a new experience every time, for real. So.
Thank you.
No, man, absolutely. And just even to like your point about just understanding the language of music, I think it was even when Mike performed the one time and like he brought Steven Shrine up. He was playing guitar and like he was even trying to coordinate with you guys, like, yo, B flat A C. Like it just like reminded me of like when they're fighting in Dragon Ball Z and like you can't see them and everyone's like, all right, like when the fight's about to start. And like Piccolo's like, yo, they've been fighting for like an hour and a half, bro. Like you ain't like you ain't see that. I'm just trying to keep up. I'm like, yo, wait, he said the beat, but now they're playing. Okay, got you. All right, damn. You know what I mean? It's like it just like comes together so beautifully, bro. Like
that's really interesting. That's cool to think because those are the moments where it's like I always just try to stay, just I don't like not panic. Don't be like, oh my gosh, people. I'm like, all right, let's just figure this out real quick.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And keep the environment and keep the vibe alive still, you know what I mean? To where like, but like, keep it moving, but also, but give enough breathing time to where like we can like get it set up. No, it's always interesting. I always think about, I'm like, I wonder if you, what the hell's going on? But it's cool to hear that from that perspective.
Nah, man, it's super dope. So also want to bring up something that I don't think, too many people may be familiar with, but you are a podcaster in your own right as well.
Yeah.
Arcane Liberation Radio. Yeah, bro. I mean, like, you want to speak to like, how that came about and just like, what, that whole thing's about.
Yeah. So that was, we're kind of doing like a little break now. But it was just, it was a period of time that, there was a lot of time to think about things.
Sure.
I want to be diplomatic in here.
Yeah.
And there's some, there was a lot of time to think about stuff, and I was questioning some of the deeper aspects. And this is something that I've been into for a long time, is just the general philosophies of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like what becomes the prominent philosophies, what becomes the dominant ideology of any given time period or region or whatever it may be. And then really getting into the questions of the, the core basis of the philosophy and trying to understand it. So so it was me and my friend Chad, our point was to look at, okay, we have all this stuff going on here in the world, but what about like what kind of, psychological implications are there for certain perspectives that are implemented within, human society, certain institutions, questioning that. So a large part of the philosophical undertaking was addressing the concept of authority
Sure.
in general. I would say that that's like a big part of it, and also just the concepts of like ethics and morality, like what is, what's good, what's, and what is good, what's evil, what's right, what's wrong. Let's have these conversations, like really try to get to an answer, like, epistemology, how is knowledge even obtained, stuff like that. Just really digging into the real formative aspects of the different philosophical schools, esoteric philosophies, occult philosophies, religions, myth, all of that stuff. So we only did like 5-6 episodes. We've chatted on we've talked about trying to get back in and maybe do something, kind of do like an update, because I'm always trying to upgrade my thinking, like, and if maybe I thought this, maybe I will reflect on it and say, okay, well, I don't actually even agree with myself a year ago. I don't agree with myself 6 months ago. You know what I mean? And like really trying to keep that process continuous so that my perspectives are being more closely aligned with consistent truth, and like not, not just getting stuck, you know what I mean, in a perspective and saying, well, this is what I believe now and I believe it until the end of time. Like but like really trying to understand and gain a knowledge base. So that's kind of like, when I look back on, I'm like, maybe I don't believe this or think this anymore. So like, that was kind of my journey into podcasting.
No, facts. And just like, even when I was listening to that first episode, like it sounded like you guys were, talking about it for like a little bit, and then like, finally, pretty much, started the podcast. Like, what was kind of like the months leading up to like when you first you put out that first episode?
So we had wanted to sort of create something that made sense from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, take a step by step unraveling of some basic topics,
Right.
So we were like, all right, we talked for a couple of months. How are we gonna approach these topics? How are we gonna
Because they're dense topics. Like it's it's a dense conversation, not in a bad way at all. Like I feel like it's conversations that need to be had. You know what I mean? But it's just like, it can be, dense.
It is, and that's why we're like, all right, let's try to have this conversation based around, something that is a good starting point. So let's start with the foundation and the foundations of information themselves. Like starting with the epistemology or ontology, being and knowledge itself. Can you obtain knowledge? Okay, if you can, then what are the best methods of doing that? Like starting off with that big question, like what is truth? What is, and what is it? What do we mean when we say truth? And what isn't that? And like, what are our limitations as being of human beings of limited understanding in acquiring that? And are we limited entirely to where we can't obtain any level of consistent, truth, or are we able to at least get enough to be able to make effective, wise decisions? So this was kind of question number one, and that right there alone took a lot of like counter arguing with ourselves and saying, well, some people might say, and here, let me like put out why I agree or disagree with this aspect of it. So it was really trying to create a basic framework of let's have this conversation that I think is kind of completely overstepped, and it really actually, it's almost a controversial topic in and of itself to talk about, because there's, what is essentially the prominent philosophy right now would be some form of postmodern philosophy, postmodernist philosophy in some form of like new version, it's kind of like a questioning the kind of like the current status quo within certain philosophical schools, I guess.
You had this one quote that you posted. You said like, if so like something is exposed, like, or truth is exposed that, ultimately not being true, and there's like an innate just need to be able to replace it with something, you know what I mean? And just like kind of fighting that instinct, which I know, like, if you're still following us here, like, so just how would you suggest people just kind of digest some of those, complex topics? Like, where do they need to kind of just start within themselves to be like, all right, let me just open my mind to think this.
I think, yeah, and I know what kind of the general idea of what you're talking about. Yeah, it's this idea that it's a common I would say it's a common like pitfall in the assessment of ideals or ideological perspectives that one has. So when you're observing something that you may have developed a faithfulness to as a belief system or as a then you might say, okay, you might go down the path of saying, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And you might find a whole bunch of inconsistencies.
Exactly.
But what most people do, and including myself, which is like with something like this advice I give to myself, it's not just like, hey, take this stuff that I do while I don't apply it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, if I'm not finding consistency within this belief system anymore, people have a tendency to say, okay, well, if I can't find a better alternative, then I'm just going to stick with it. And to me, I'd rather be in a place of mystery, and actually looking for things that do qualify under those criteria that I identified as being inconsistent within my past perspective. So that means that once you've negated something, you've actually come closer to distilling your intended outcome. Right. So if you're trying to understand something, understanding what is not that thing, you're already a lot of steps closer to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So differentiation. So being able to say, okay, well, it's not this, it's not this, and that's part of a method of inquiry called apophatic inquiry. It's affirmation through negation, essentially. So learning what something is by learning what it's not. So that is kind of that idea of like, don't just look for an alternative and just take, and if there isn't one and isn't an alternative, then say, well, I'm just going to stick with this.
It's going to take some time and development to, reach that point.
So once you recognize, okay, well, this, these things that I recognize as inconsistencies, well, then that's a criteria to go off of as I now, size up different perspectives that come my way, different ideological belief systems or not systems of axiom,
Yeah, sure.
So I think that was kind of like a big, to sum it up, it's like, try to not be afraid of not having an answer so that you can actually find an answer that actually does fit. Don't just force that jigsaw puzzle. Right, you know what I mean? Don't just force that piece.
Exactly.
So that's kind of like, I would say like a summary of.
So yeah, and that's exactly what I pull from that. Like like at least that quote I heard is just like, yeah, just take some time to find out what that answer is. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be immediately replaced just for that sense of comfort. You know what I mean? So I know, like, if you're still with this thing, appreciate you for that. You know what I mean? Like I know that was a little bit dense there, but. I do want to touch on, because you were one of the featured artists on the compilation album Futures Volume 3.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like, just how did that come about, and what was your experience like, even in being a part of that album?
Oh, so that was really cool. That's Inner Ocean Records.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're still around doing a whole bunch of different lo-fi.
Are they based out here, or are they based in Cali?
I think that they're in. Honestly, I don't want to say. I think that they're maybe in Canada or something.
Oh, okay.
Like something like, I haven't checked in a while, but I actually just I did check on the page, and I was like looking at the new compilations and the playlists and stuff like that they're putting together. So they're still doing it, Inner Ocean Records, and the guy who was running the record label just hit me up, and he's like, hey, I found your song, like I think it would really fit the vibe of this compilation that we're putting together. And I was just like, yeah, cool, throw me on there, I'm down with it. So that was kind of like my first like contact with like what is now like this like flourishing lo-fi music community, which is like is a really cool thing. And it's I've seen it like grow into something completely different, and I love to see what's happening with it. So it was really cool to be involved in that. And like I kind of went on this like hiatus for a while, but it's encouraging for me to think about that I was involved in something like that, and now it's like, all right, well, next steps, so.
No, facts. Hold on, let me just check the time and see where we're at.
Over here staring at the screen.
So we got about 10 minutes left.
Cool.
So what was it like? Hold on, let me just get back in frame. So just even like the process of, you making the song to be on the compilation album, like what was, who you're working with? Was that like like a solo venture? Like, how did that, happen?
So that was all solo work for me on that one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a song called They Bloomed.
Mhm.
It's off of an EP that I put out called Primavera.
Okay.
And it was just it was like my first months with an SP404 SX.
What is that?
It's a sampler that is like, it's kind of okay, so like you have an MPC which you could like make, full on beats on, right? Like, and especially like the newer stuff. And then you have the SP, which is a sampler, and it's like, but it's not quite as like sequencer heavy as like the MPC is, but it just makes stuff sound crazy because it has like all these effects on it. There's all this different cool stuff that you can do with it, with like resampling and like sound looping and stuff. So I was just exploring sound on my SP, and like that I started building these songs up piece by piece. And that song, They Bloomed, was just something that I had made like a drum beat on the SP, and then I started scrapping it together over like a 3-year period or something like that.
Sure.
Then so like,
Oh, so like that song was like 3 years old then.
well, no, when he put it, when he actually had, well, overall, yeah, like it was like it was like 3 years at work,
Yeah, gotcha.
So once I actually put it out, yeah, I had been working on it for like 2 or 3 years or so.
Okay.
So it was when I was really like into guitar, so there's like a lot more guitar on it. And it was just like a process of, that was a really important song for me, actually. It was a process of me learning how to approach writing music from a completely different perspective, like from the instruments, and trying to, do like more of a singing thing and not as much, it's kind of like a singy rap, like,
yeah.
so that was a big step in my kind of opening a door for me to learn how to make music in a new way. So, and then, having had him reach out for that, it was just, it put like a little pin in it. And then I think that I've actually recently kind of come back to that.
I was about to say, like, would you revisit that style again, or?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I've been doing the last, I would say the last like year or so, probably, is like just really getting back into my hardware and just learning how to like, dive in and, make something and commit to it, like, because it's like when you're on the computer, you have every option. You can do this, and
Yeah, sure.
kind of like making myself make decisions, which is part of what that sound ends up, that sort of style, it ends up having a certain character because it's done, and you can't really reverse some sounds, it's stuck there. So I've been revisiting that, and that's kind of like I'm kind of taking that again, and now I'm trying to refine that process. So
Definitely.
it's exactly what I'm working on right now. I'm refining that process of writing in that way, but sort of maybe getting, a little bit better audio quality, a little bit more concise compositional techniques and stuff.
Has there been anyone local that you've worked with, or like, plan on working with? Would you work with, like?
I've done a lot of production for, so I like produce stuff for Abstract Theory. I'm producing an album for a rapper, named Troy Reeves.
Okay.
And I had produced like 3 albums with Brittany Chantel, a few years back.
Okay. Is she still in Pittsburgh, or?
I believe she's in Chicago now.
Oh, okay.
Maybe back and forth, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
But I also did some stuff with, I've worked on, I've done a lot of production, like with various, artists here and there, and or like contributing keyboard parts and stuff, like I played on a song with Rowdy from like Jack Swing.
Okay.
So Rowdy's the like the side project of Rowdy, the bassist slash guitarist slash bassist slash guitarist of Jack Swing.
Okay.
Isaiah. So I played with them on some stuff, So right now though, honestly, my biggest focus is that I'm really trying to get into making my own stuff and doing it. Because I've done so much collaborative work, I was playing keys with, and I still do that. Like I still play live with people and stuff. So but my main focus is really more so to make my own music right now.
Yeah. You got anything in like the works currently right now, or what are you working on?
Yeah, I've got a few kind of thematic ideas, like certain like concepts. But I'm sort of starting off with I'm putting together some kind of project. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't have like it's going to be vocals. It's not going to be. I just had decided I'm just going to do it and let it be a thing. And like not maybe too much planning, just kind of let it come together, pick my favorite songs that I make over the next 6 months, and then just put them together as a project. So
Got you.
just anything that I can come up with. I just got a new SP 404 Mark II, so I'm
Okay.
I'm big in the SP.
Is that one that like you like decked out with all like the like it says like the
Yeah, so that's the SX. That's my
Okay.
that's my original one. That's the one that I've
Okay.
had for like 10 or 11 years.
Oh,
So
wow,
I just got
okay.
like the upgraded
New
version.
one. Okay, nice.
And
nice.
I'm digging into learning how to use that and kind of going back and forth between Ableton and that, and like learning, because I to me the tools that you use are sort of like an instrument.
Sure, yeah.
So to me, it's like the computer and the Ableton Push 2, and then the SP, like those are my instruments, and then the keyboard, and learning how to learn how to communicate through them. Like unite with them. Unify with the process. So that's my next. Yeah, that's where I'm headed right now. Trying to make some instrumental singing, whatever. Yeah.
Have you like worked on anything with Cam? Like, would you like have you all like collabed on anything before?
So I play with him sometimes.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
I'll
facts.
play. Yeah, I'll play gigs with him. Me and Al will play with him on some stuff. But we haven't done anything studio wise. Like I'd be down to. I'm down to work with anybody who's the way I see it is that if you're interested in working with me, then there's obviously something that, you know what I mean.
There's like chemistry, like
Yeah.
like there, facts. Yeah.
So like let's cultivate it. So it's like, yeah, if you want session work, let me know. I'm down
Yeah,
for it.
facts.
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, that's there. I have I have my priorities, but at
Yeah,
the same time, like, yeah, I can't, I there's the list is probably too long. There's a lot of people that I like. Jake Barber, sax player. We've been writing and jamming on some stuff.
Okay.
Cody House plays guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, these
So
are names on here for the first
yeah,
time.
there's a whole bunch of people, man. There's a lot of people that, but yeah, I don't know, if anybody's interested, I mean, you can always hit me up. I teach lessons too. I'm like a teacher pretty much full time.
Oh shit! Like where at? Like do you just like
So I teach out at
book students, or like do you like have like a institution that you're at, or?
So there's this. It's like a music lesson studio, like like privately owned school. It's
Okay.
called M&M Music.
M&M Music.
And it's owned by Michael Burnaby and Martina Caruso Burnaby. They're married. And it's offer different like different types of lessons: piano, drums, bass,
Sure.
guitar. So I teach there primarily, and then like I have like people I do Zoom lessons with that are across the country.
Okay,
Or something.
gotcha.
Like if
Yeah.
they're not local, like I do like I do that kind of stuff. And
Okay.
yeah, that's another.
I
thing
feel
do
that.
too. Yeah.
Is King Fly Spirits like the place that you probably play at most consistently, or like do you like perform other places?
Yeah, at this point, I think that's probably the most consistent. Yeah,
Gotcha.
because I'm kind of like playing a little bit less right now. I'm kind of I wanted to take a little bit of a time to breathe. Like I'm not like rejecting all all gigs and stuff like that. It's just I did want to make it an actual intention to actually give time to making my own stuff. So, but King Fly's like most consistent. We've been doing stuff at all these other places, pretty consistently too. But
I feel that. Well, I think we're at about time, man. Dude, Remy, thank you so much for chopping up. This was honestly an awesome conversation, bro. For real, like
I really appreciate you.
Nah, man, absolutely. So, like I said, you can catch Remy at King Fly Spirits once a month. But, bro, obviously, man, if you have anything any other things that you want to promote, where they can find you on IG, socials, just where they can check you out, man. The floor is yours.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've listened through, you can find me on Instagram at Remy Vega, REMY VEGA. And yeah, I mean, if you want to hit me up for some lessons or some session work, or just chop it up, hit me up, ask some questions, get into some philosophy, start a book club.
Okay, yeah, knit some shit.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it. At Remy.Vega.
Cool.
That's it. Yeah.
There you go, man. Well, listen, man. MIC Podcast, episode 85, community content. You get it all here. Remy Vega, it's been a pleasure. And we're out.
Cheers.
See y'all, man.